Today is a Friday, October 20, 2023. Israel-Palestine news: Gaza is facing health crisis after Israel's blockade. Biden says help could enter Gaza on Friday as Israel and Egypt give go for it. 20 trucks planning to enter Gaza through the Rafah crossing, yet the US says help will stop whenever seized by Hamas. Trucks conveying helpful guide will enter Gaza from Egypt's Sinai promontory before very long, as per the White House, after Joe Biden's hurricane visit to Israel that followed a lethal impact at a medical clinic in the blockaded domain. Late night of talks with Israel's state head, Benjamin Netanyahu, and his conflict bureau, the U.S. president said Israel had consented to permit the launch of the Egypt-Gaza Rafah crossing to conveyances of frantically required food, water, and clinical supplies on condition that the philanthropic help was not redirected by Hamas for its own utilization. Individuals of Gaza need food, water, medication, and haven, Biden said. After the U.S. president's takeoff from Israel, Netanyahu's office said Israel wouldn't thwart the inventory of helpful guide through Egypt. Conversing with correspondents installed Flying Corps 1, Biden made it clear he accepted the principal accomplishment of the outing was to convince Israel's conflict bureau to give a go-ahead, with provisos, to philanthropic help conveyances across the Egypt-Gaza line. Biden said he had additionally addressed the Egyptian president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who had consented to return the Rafah crossing to permit 20 trucks with philanthropic guides to enter Gaza. Biden expressed streets close to the line would require fixes after they were harmed in Israeli strikes, however, that help could start arriving at the region by Friday. "This has been an exceptionally dull discussion I've had," Biden said. "We need to get whatever number of the trucks out as would be prudent. There's, I surmise, 150 or something there. Not every one of them will go to the main tranche. On the off chance that there's a subsequent tranche, find out how it turns out." He said Sisi had concurred that what he would do is open the entryway, to ease up to 20 trucks through in the first place. They will fix the street. They need to fill in potholes to help these trucks through. Furthermore, that will happen, they expect it'll require around 8 hours on Thursday. In this way, there might not be anything moving through, likely until Friday, Biden said. For this reason. Not to permit many individuals out, yet to open it up for this reason. Once more in any case, Biden added, assuming that Hamas redirects or takes the help, they will have shown that they have no worry for the government assistance of the Palestinian public, and as a useful matter it will prevent the global local area from having the option to give this guide. Aid organizations cautioned that 20 trucks by Friday could be short of what was needed for the overwhelming majority of those caught in Gaza, cut off from water and essential arrangements for the beyond 12 days. There will be many harmed who will lose their lives if adequate fuel, clinical supplies, and life-saving guide isn't conveyed to medical clinics in Gaza, which are loaded with harmed regular folks from the persistent bombarding and Israeli airstrikes, said Reham Jafari, the correspondence and support organizer at Action Aid Palestine. Lacking a guide will cause well-being calamities and starvation, as patients with constant infections and pregnant ladies and their babies will not be able to get the clinical consideration and nourishment they need, and this will jeopardize their lives. We realize that the 20 trucks of help right now guaranteed is just adequately not. Supplies would go in under the oversight of the UN, the Egyptian foreign minister, Sameh Shoukry, told Al Arabiya television. Inquired as to whether outsiders and double nationals trying to leave would be let through, he said, as long as the intersection is working ordinarily and the crossing office has been fixed. An expected 500 Palestinian Americans and a great many different Palestinians with outside ethnicity have been wanting to leave Gaza through the Rafah entryway. Biden expressed that close by guaranteeing philanthropic guide conveyances, guaranteeing whatever number of Americans would be prudent who needed to get out, could get out had been his need in visiting Israel. While the consent to permit help through the Rafah crossing was a leap forward, the UN and other guide organizations have said the help will in any case miss the mark concerning what is required. Gaza's ensnared populace of 2.3 million individuals is at risk for death by lack of hydration, craving, infection, and wounds from the barrage. Helpful associations have amassed life-saving supplies on the Egyptian side of the boundary, hanging tight for the Rafah crossing to open. The UN Help Executive, Martin Griffiths, told the UN Security Chamber on Wednesday that the association tried to take help conveyances to Gaza back to 100 trucks per day, the level before the Israel-Hamas struggle. Aid workers have said that each hour that guide to Gaza is postponed will cost lives. The region was vigorously subject to outside help before the complete bar after October 7 and the beginning of a serious Israeli siege. Israel-Hamas war live, absence of water in Gaza a well-being emergency near the very edge of blast, says Noble Cause. Griffiths told the Security Board, there is basically no place to go for regular citizens to get away from the annihilation and privation, the two of which develop continuously as rockets proceed to fly and fundamental supplies, including fuel, food, clinical things, water run short. Because of the shortage of water, UNRWA, the UN alleviation agency in certain areas, is being compelled to proportion down to giving 1 liter of water for every individual each day. Remember that the base by worldwide guidelines ought to be 15 liters, and they're getting 1, and they're the fortunate ones. During his visit to Israel, Biden said he had encouraged restriction. Israel has amassed immense power around Gaza and told the number of inhabitants in northern Gaza, more than 1 million individuals, to move toward the southern portion of the domain ahead of a generally anticipated ground intrusion. Biden proposed such a mass attack may not be unavoidable. We had a significant discussion about that and what choices there are. Our military is talking with their military about what the choices are, the president said, yet he wouldn't give nuances. The Biden Association fears an immense extension ground assault will provoke further mass non-military staff mishaps, possibly trigger a huge cross-line unfriendly from the Iranian-moved Hezbollah neighborhood armed force in Lebanon, and come up short concerning the Israeli clash reason behind shedding Hamas. Chatting on his return stumble on Wednesday night, Biden uncaringly denied an Israeli press report that the U.S. had promised to fight nearby Israeli warriors accepting Hezbollah's pursuit. Misleading, the president said. That was seldom said. A short time later, John Kirby, the delegate for the U.S. Public Safety Committee, said, as we've said beforehand, there's no assumption to put U.S. boots on the ground in a fight. While in Israel, Biden conveyed wretchedness for the Palestinians who kicked the pail in the impact at the Al-Ali Bedouin Clinical Center in Gaza, yet said the U.S. agreed with Israel on the effects objective. Considering the information we have seen to date, it shows up due to an unruly rocket ended by a mental oppressor pack in Gaza, he said. The Israel Defense Powers have said the explanation was a rocket ended by Palestinian Islamic Jihad, while Hamas says the effect was achieved by an Israeli airstrike. The blast at the clinic and its weighty loss of life prompted the crossing out of what should be the second leg of Biden's Center East Harmony mission, a gathering in Amman with Sisi, Jordan's top leader Abdullah, and the top of the Palestinian expert in the West Bank, Mahmoud Abbas. On Thursday, the English state leader, Rishi Sunak, showed up in Israel prior to going to different nations in the area with an end goal to deraise the Israel-Gaza struggle, his office said. At a joint public interview with Netanyahu, Sunak said Israel had gone through something that no nation, no individuals ought to need to persevere, in particular Israel. He additionally said thanks to the Israeli government for its choice to report the opening up of philanthropic courses in Gaza. More than 1 million Palestinians, generally 50% of Gaza's populace, have escaped their homes since the conflict started. Those escaping the north to move south have swarmed into UN schools or the homes of family members. The Gaza Wellbeing Service said 3,478 individuals had been killed in Gaza since the conflict started and in excess of 12,000 injured, for the most part, ladies, youngsters, and older individuals. In excess of 1,400 individuals in Israel have passed on, generally, regular people killed during Hamas' destructive attack on October 7. Thanks for watching and subscribing to the channel.